Margot Robbie is currently trapped in a high-stakes game of financial hide-and-seek, and the world is finally catching on. The image of the golden girl of Hollywood is being replaced by the cold reality of a forensic nightmare. While the public saw a record-breaking box office run, the secret paper trail shows a much darker story. The receipts prove that the money is not where it should be. The truth is that the Barbie star is facing a total career meltdown, driven by a web of shell companies that are now beginning to unravel. This is not a rumor or a theory from an anonymous source. The corporate filings tell the story of a woman who tried to outsmart the system and ended up in a financial cage. The fallout is massive, and it is happening in real time. The collapse began with the very money that was supposed to secure her legacy forever. When the $50 million payout for her biggest film hit the books, it did not stay in a standard bank account. Instead, the paper trail shows the funds were instantly diverted through a series of entities that look more like a maze than a business plan. Forensic accountants have tracked these movements to a specific holding company registered in Delaware that has no physical office and no employees. This was the first red flag that indicated a deep liquidity crisis was being masked by aggressive corporate layering. The receipts show that this was a desperate move to stay ahead of massive debts that the public knew nothing about. The money was gone before the ink on the check was even dry. But what happened next was even more shocking for those who believed the carefully crafted public image. The deeper you go into the audit, the more the corporate veil begins to thin and the lies become clear. LuckyChap Entertainment was marketed as a powerhouse for female-led stories, but behind the scenes, it functioned as a shield for bad debt. The contract structures were designed to siphon production fees into secondary shell companies like Emerald City Holdings and Gold Coast Ventures. These entities were used to pay for a lifestyle that the actual liquid assets could no longer support. The truth is finally out because the secondary lenders have started filing clawback petitions in open court. They are tired of the excuses, and they are now coming for the remains of a crumbling empire. The audit has revealed that the mismanagement was not just a mistake, but a consistent pattern of behavior. For every dollar that came in through the front door, $2 were being promised to creditors through the back door. The receipts show that the shell company known as Emerald City Holdings was used to take out high-interest loans against movies that hadn't even been filmed yet. This is a classic sign of a manipulator who is running out of options and running out of time. The legal documents prove that Robbie was personally signing off on these high-risk maneuvers, despite warnings from her own legal team. She thought she could stay one step ahead of the forensic investigators, but she was wrong. A massive leak from an offshore firm in the British Virgin Islands exposed the internal panic that has been brewing for years. These documents, which are now being called the Cayman Files, show a series of frantic emails between Robbie's top financial advisors. These emails show a team in a state of total panic as they realized the shell companies were bleeding cash faster than they could be replenished. The receipts show that while she was walking red carpets, her team was trying to negotiate emergency loans with predatory interest rates just to keep the lights on. This was not a professional business strategy, but a reckless attempt to hide a sinking ship from the world. The truth was about to become a public scandal. The paper trail leads directly to a massive real estate blunder that served as the catalyst for the current meltdown. The records prove that Robbie used a blind trust to purchase a string of luxury properties that are now completely underwater. Because the properties were held by shell companies, the true owner remained hidden until the mortgage defaults hit the public record. The legal filings show that the bank has already moved to seize 3 of these assets because the payments stopped months ago. The villain of this story is not the bank or the auditors, but the deceptive strategy that put these assets at risk in the first place. This was a calculated gamble that failed on a global stage. The hero of the narrative is the forensic team that refused to be intimidated by Hollywood legal threats. They followed the money across 3 different continents and multiple tax havens to find the truth. They discovered that the predatory contracts were not forced upon her, but were actively sought out to provide quick infusions of cash to hide the crisis. The truth is that she traded her future earnings for a temporary fix to a permanent financial problem. Every signature on those leaked documents serves as a piece of evidence in a case of extreme financial mismanagement. The receipts were about to go public, and there was no way to stop the inevitable fallout. As the liquidity crisis worsened, the maneuvers became even more transparent and even more desperate. The auditors found evidence of double dipping on production fees, where the same expenses were being billed to multiple shell companies at once. This is a classic move of someone in a total career meltdown who has no other way to generate cash flow. When you run out of real money, you start moving fake money around to buy yourself just a few more weeks of luxury. But the time has officially run out for the architect of this scheme. The contract proves that the primary investors have triggered a clause that allows them to take total control of her future projects until every cent is paid back. The war behind the closed doors of the boardroom was even more aggressive than anyone imagined. Witness statements from former employees at LuckyChap Entertainment describe a workplace fueled by the stress of impending financial ruin. They describe being told to ignore late payment notices from vendors and to prioritize the public image over the private reality of the books. These statements are now part of a larger legal battle that aims to hold the decision-makers accountable for the massive deception. The mask of the professional producer has slipped, revealing a manipulator who was willing to gamble the jobs of her staff to save her own reputation. The receipts show that the employees were the first ones to realize the money was gone. The evidence of the meltdown is now visible to anyone who knows how to read a balance sheet. The brand deals that once seemed endless are starting to dry up as corporate partners get wind of the forensic audit. No major fashion house or luxury brand wants to be tied to a celebrity who is under investigation for offshore tax evasion and shell company fraud. The receipts show that 2 major contracts were quietly terminated in the last quarter alone, without any public explanation. This is the sound of a career hitting a brick wall at full speed, and the impact is going to be felt for years to come. The truth is that the money is gone, and the reputation is following it into the abyss of Hollywood history. What makes this forensic cautionary tale so devastating is how avoidable it all was from the very beginning. If the hero of the story had been listened to earlier, the damage might have been contained to just 1 or 2 companies, but the villain chose to double down on the lies and the offshore layering to protect her ego. The leaked filings show a pattern of ignoring expert advice in favor of high-risk gambles that were never going to pay off. This was a deliberate choice to prioritize appearance over substance in every single business deal. Now the substance is non-existent, and the appearance is being torn apart by the cold hard facts of the ledger. The receipts show that even the charity work was not immune to the financial rot that was spreading through her empire. A portion of the funds promised to various causes were routed through the same shell companies that were used to hide the liquidity crisis from the public. This discovery was the final nail in the coffin for many of her former supporters who felt betrayed by the news. It proved that the deception went beyond business and into the core of her public identity as a role model. The truth is that the entire empire was built on a foundation of shifting sand, and the tide is finally coming in to wash it all away. The legal battle is only just beginning, but the outcome is already clear to anyone who has seen the files. The forensic accountants have documented every cent that was moved and every cent that was hidden from the creditors. They have pieced together the puzzle that the shell companies were meant to keep unsolved forever. The receipts show a clear line of intent to deceive the people who put their trust in her brand. There is no redemption arc for a story built on this much calculated dishonesty and this much financial manipulation. The only thing left to do is watch as the final assets are liquidated to pay for the mistakes of a lifetime of greed. The predatory contracts that were once seen as a lifeline are now the very chains that are dragging her down. Every film she makes for the next decade will essentially be owned by the lenders she tried to outrun. This is the true cost of the secret paper trail and the secret life she was leading behind the scenes. It is a life of professional servitude to pay off the debts of a corporate fantasy that was never real to begin with. The documents show that there is no escape clause and no way to renegotiate the terms of her surrender. The trap has been sprung, and the architect of the trap is the only one left inside the cage. As we look at the wreckage of this Hollywood powerhouse, the lesson is clear for anyone watching. You can hide the truth behind 1,000 shell companies, but the paper trail never truly goes away in the digital age. The forensic audit has exposed the rot at the heart of the empire, and the smell is becoming impossible to ignore. The receipts have proven that the liquidity crisis was not a streak of bad luck, but the result of a deliberate and deceptive strategy. The villain of this story is now standing alone in the ruins of a career that once was the envy of the entire world. There is no one left to help her and no one left to lie for her. The final receipts show that the total debt exceeds the total value of all her combined companies by a massive margin. This is the definition of a catastrophic financial collapse that cannot be fixed with a few good headlines.